Moving into NFL Week 14, we are here with Erik from Ethoff 21 Sports for our weekly game previews. And Erik, one of the stories of this year has been quarterback injuries. Right now, as it stands, 4 of the 7 teams that are currently in the AFC playoff hunt that are actually in the spots of 1 through 7, 4 of them are actually starting a backup quarterback this week. I guess we'll have to find out, come game time, but they're in line to start a backup QB. So we have, this is where you really come into play. A lot of these guys from college or from XFL or from the CFL or for wherever they came. And I'm sure you've seen a Jake Browning game or two before last week, but that was as good as he could have possibly imagined playing, right?
You know what? I was one of the final 55 going into Monday night, and I'm kicking myself because I switched it from the Buccaneers to the Jaguars. Yep. Wasn't meant to be, and I knew as soon as Lawrence went down because I knew like CJ Bettors wasn't going to be able to do it. It just is what it is. Reality is,
great run.
I should have eliminated. Like I had the Lions when they came back against the Bears. I should have been eliminated then.
You got a few extra lives.
Bought me a couple weeks. Just goes to show, dude. You have a plan. Just stick with the plan. Injuries have been bad though. I really don't know if there's a way to prevent these injuries. They all seem very random.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're like all hamstrings, right, from guys that weren't playing preseason, especially at this point now. I mean, they're all different. They're kind of fluky. Maybe overall with some of these guys, you could think that, maybe a few more reps in the preseason would help. But then is it the flip side? Is that just more opportunity for these guys to get hurt if they play an extra week or two,
Yeah, I just think, I'll just be honest, I just think it's fluky.
Me too. It feels like it. It does.
The thing with Lawrence was just a step, and do that 100 times, that happens maybe twice. It was just a fluky thing. And good thing this isn't college football because then they get relegated out of the playoffs.
That was so bad for Florida State, man. You feel so bad for that team, especially you as like a coach, someone who's coaches younger kids too, and like kids in the high schoolish range. It's like, how many times do you have to preach to kids, hey, somebody got hurt or someone can't be here. We can do this without them. Step up. Everybody can step up. And they did. And you're like telling them that it just doesn't matter.
And I mean, this is the thing that gets me. Real quick, the tangent on this. Number one.
Good.
They played who was in front of them, and they beat everyone that was in front of them. They won a Power 5 conference. They're not winning the Sun Belt, the MAC, or whatever. They're winning a Power 5 conference.
Undefeated.
And last but not least, and someone got upset with me on Twitter, the analogy I can make to people is, let's say you were applying for a job and you met all the criteria, but somebody who didn't meet the criteria as good as you was related to somebody, had that old blood in them, like the SEC has that old blood money in them, and they get the job instead of you, but you checked off more of the boxes. And that's the best analogy I can make for this.
The SEC, it makes it difficult too. And, the SEC and ESPN have a partnership that starts next year, right? Because the SEC just ended their partnership with CBS Sports. So you're hearing the ESPN people like really like defending it a lot and stuff too. Yeah, that was a bummer. Because how many great stories, like how many movies would have never been written? The guy goes down, you step up. Some great cult hero is born. Nope, never mind. We don't think you can win, so we're not going to put you in there.
And for those who are like, well, they wouldn't have made it. They have their backup quarterback. He's not any good. He hasn't done anything. Let's just rewind to last year in the NFL when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt and Bryce Purdy came out of nowhere, played great, got them to the NFC Championship game. And you know what? You can probably argue after what we saw last Sunday.
Yeah, if he doesn't get hurt, it's a different game. Yeah. Totally different.
We just don't know what these freshmen or these backups were going to be, and we'll never know. And you feel for these kids because they literally did everything possible.
Poor Jordan Travis is out there saying, I wish I would have broke my leg earlier. You know, like this poor kid is like having to like do all these mental gymnastics now about like, man, my team doesn't even get to play for it because I got hurt. They set themselves up to fail, and hopefully
does this like kind of affect like George, like whoever, like let's say there's a big injury to player X and he's going to miss multiple weeks, but a team's worried about losing their ranking. Do they just lie about the injury and just be like, well, it's not that serious. He's like day to day.
I know. You start thinking about like the domino effect that this could possibly have. But I guess next year, and next year it'll be the same thing, right? Because they'll pick 12 and then there'll be the teams that are like 13, 14, 15 that are on the outside kind of looking in that might have these same things, right? You could have a team that lost a couple games early in the year. They're on a big run, and then there's something. So just not great for a team like Florida State to get left out after earning it, deserving it. Would they have been a double-digit underdog against whomever they played? Yes. Is Alabama going to be a more competitive game? Probably. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about, right? I mean, they wrote in a little bylaw that they could use, but they hadn't used this as precedent before, and that's just it's a bad. But
I mean, even if they say they use that bylaw, why is Georgia ranked behind Florida State?
I know that doesn't make any sense then. So you're telling me you watch those teams and you think Georgia is that far below Alabama, but you know what I mean? Like you can make that distinction that Georgia was behind Florida State, but Alabama wasn't.
It's just
that doesn't make sense.
You know.
Well, we've got a lot of football games to make some sense of, Eric. Let's start with Thursday night. Oh, this is a barn burner, Eric. One of the best games of the year. We've got a total that could creep under 30. It is currently at 30 right now. This is not Iowa, Nebraska. This is Bailey Zappi and the Patriots versus Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers on a short week, Thursday night football. And how about this? Mitch, a 6-point favorite here in this game. So the Patriots, every week, it's like just being able to list off some of these great Patriot stats is one of my favorite parts of these previews, Eric. So the Patriots have allowed 10 points or less now for 3 straight games, and then they've lost all 3 of them. This is the first time a team has allowed 10 or fewer points in 3 straight games and lost all 3 since, I know you had them, Eric, in a future, the 1938 Chicago Cardinals. I know they just got over the number for you that year, I'm pretty sure. The NFL this year, teams are 54-3 when they've allowed 10 points or fewer in a game, which means the Patriots are 1-3 and the rest of the league is 53-0 this year.
It's just mind-boggling what's going on with them.
26 total points over the last 3 weeks. Over the last 4 weeks, they have the lowest point total allowed in the league. They've lost all 4 of those games. They have 7 one-score losses this year. If you just flipped half of those, not even being greedy, we're not going to say they're the Vikings from last year and they get every one score, right? But let's just give them 3. 3 more losses and you give them wins. You feel completely different about their season right now. And if they're a 5-win, 6-win team, and it's totally logical that they could be.
Yeah, I mean, remember, they could have beat the Eagles. They could have beat the Dolphins.
Missed the field goal against the Colts. Missed the field goal against the Giants, the Colts game in Germany.
Yeah, if they just get one of those wins, at the beginning of the year, we're looking at this team completely different. I look at this like this. My boy Tomlin, 45% ATS is a favorite. Minus 3.5 favorite or more, still a 47%. Looking at Trubisky against the Patriots, 57% in 2 games, 250 yards, a 1-to-1 TD to INT ratio. So those numbers aren't too good. Pats are going to try to run the ball. This Steelers team hasn't been as good as they've been in previous years, stopping the run. They're middle of the pack, 15th DVOA, but they're allowing 121 yards per game. As much as we want to give the Patriots crap about their offense, their defense has been pretty nails. I mean, you mentioned the stat. They're not allowing that many points, and they're doing against better offenses. They just did against the Chargers, who are a better offense in my eyes than the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Now you're bringing in Trubisky, who doesn't have as many reps
No,
as Pickett.
I think the Patriots, like we were just talking about their defense, they're number one in defensive rushing EPA, number one in defensive rushing success rate. So even with all like their struggles this year, they're the best defense in the league at stopping the run.
And I just don't know how the Steelers are going to move the ball. Najee Harris didn't practice today. Does that mean they lean on Jalen Warren? We've seen this script before when Jalen Warren kind of gets elevated to that one guy. He's just not the same player. Jalen Warren's basically Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard. I was just going to say it, right?
Yeah,
the same
like
sort of thing.
A type guy. So, look, this is disgusting.
We're all in on Zappy. No doubt about it.
I'm in on Zappy.
100%.
I'll be honest. I got to go on a live stream tomorrow for the play-in game, and I got time slotted at the 10:30 p.m. Eastern time slot, so I won't even be watching this game.
Yeah, and there you go.
I couldn't be happier. You know what I mean? Like
you can just put your play in, and you don't have to worry about watching it until afterwards when you watch it back. You can fast forward through all the commercials and only watch the plays back because this is not going to be pretty, especially on the short week here. But we're both on the Patriot. It's a gambling 101 class. If you were teaching it with someone and you were just teaching them, hey, look, I've got an hour. Let me give you some of the quick tips that I would say to you if you're going to be betting this year. If there's a very low total in a game, if the spread is like over a field goal, you probably want to take the underdog. That's like one of the more basic things. This is a 30-point total, and they're getting almost a touchdown with Mitch Trubisky on a short week with injuries after they just got their butts kicked by Arizona. I know that was a weird game because they had the delays and the weather stuff, but not positive for them when they kind of had a chance to like even get back in the division race. Doesn't feel like it now with the Pickett injury here. And after, was it their first 10, 11 games this year where they got outgained every game? Last week, they actually outgained their opponents and lost, right? It's going to flip back a few times now, just like it will when you get all the bounces and when you get some sort of lucky wins. So, we're both on the Patriots side.
And one way to think of it, as much as everyone wants to blame Belichick, it's not Belichick. I mean, his defense has been lights out. They're great. Offense. If you want to blame Belichick for personnel decisions,
sure. Completely agree.
But you can't blame him for the level that this defense is playing at. This defense is playing at a phenomenal level, and he's going against someone who's been around the coaching block, but has never been in this position to call plays. I'll take the Patriots here plus the points. I'll put my nose up and,
Yeah, and they're bad against. They're not great against. They're weaker against the pass, but they're still 11th on DVOA. And I was pointing out the EPA and success rate numbers. They're first against the rush. So in a week like this, where you feel like Pittsburgh's not going to be trying to throw it all over the field on a short week with a backup quarterback that hasn't been in a lot, the script should play nicely for the Patriots this week with that 6-point cushion you're getting. We move to Carolina at the Saints. We didn't get that fired coach bump as the Panthers got rid of Coach Frank Reich.
A phenomenal cover.
Oh, that was great, though.
And
that was great.
We hit Armingo over.
Oh, I was going to say, that was perfect. He had 10 targets in that game, right? I think they
worked out great. We hit
10 to 12.
I had Mingo over 25.5, which hit.
Right off the bat.
Small play on him over, over 65.5, which was plus 850. And then I parlayed two together just because the number was outrageous. It was a plus 13,000 parlay, and I was 9 yards away.
Very good game last week, and could have been even better for Erik. But this Panthers team still, that was one of the main differences we saw. Mingo moving forward, he was targeted quite a bit. Hubbard had 25 carries for 104 yards, so that was a positive. But they only had 282 total yards, only 4.1 yards per play, only 15 first downs in the game. They cut it to a 3-point game. They got the ball back with 3 minutes and 31 seconds left to play. They had 2 timeouts from their own 31. So a pretty good spot to try to go on a drive, right? You're not way in your own territory. You got plenty of time. You got timeouts and the 2-minute warning, everything you need. They ran the ball 5 yards, ran the ball 4 yards. So it's 3rd and 1. incomplete pass, and then they threw an interception on 4th and 1. They've allowed Bryce Young to be sacked at least 4 times in 8 different games this year. They're on pace to give up 66 sacks, which would be close to their team record. On the flip side, you got a Saints team here who's favored by 5. They had generated -6 yards of offense on their first 3 possessions against your Lions last week, and they were down by 21 instantly in that game. They made a lot of mistakes. Their interception, a fumble that resulted in points for the Lions. They start to come back at the end of the first half, and they end up scoring a touchdown on 3 of their next 4 possessions. But in the middle of that, there's a fumble, and that gave the Lions a chance to kick a field goal. Carr got hurt again. It was the 3rd time this year he's gotten hurt after starting a game. So Jameis comes in, and the Saints actually had more first downs, more total yards than the Lions. Kind of a weird game, though, when you get down so quick early. You have to just tack up more yards trying to come back. So it's usually going to be the template when a team gets up big early. They got Taysom Hill involved a lot last week, 13 carries, 2 receptions. He also threw 2 passes there. I don't know. I just don't feel like the Saints should be favored by more than a field goal against many teams this year with their offense and some of their struggles. But maybe can we get there with Carolina again this week?
Yeah, I gave this one out actually.
I think so too.
Tuesday on my stream. I took the Panthers here plus the 5.5. Dennis Allen is 23.8% ATS as a favorite. Are you ready to get blown away? He is the 6th least profitable coach against
as a
the
favorite.
Spread.
Wow.
As a favorite since 2005.
That's crazy.
Home favorite, which he is, ticks up to a 31% ATS. Obviously, we don't know who's playing quarterback. We would just look at the trends that Carr has. 32.7% ATS is a favorite. Home favorite, 36.7%. Winston, 29.6% ATS is a favorite. Home favorite is 26.3. So right now we have a big sample size of 2 quarterbacks. One of them is going to be playing, and the coach. They have historically proven they just do not cover numbers as favorites. The last couple of years, the Saints team, they've been really known to be stout against the run. That's not the case this year. They're 25th DVOA defending the run, allowing 125.5 rushing yards per game, and have allowed 165 rushing yards per game the last 3 games. One of the things that stood out to me, the Panthers, was they were committed to the run. That was the most they've
that's the key for them
all year. Hubbard had 25 carries, and I think they'll lean on the rush game here. The rushing game has been one of the more functional, good parts of the Panthers offense. We also saw the Panthers take more chances down the field. What does that do? We use the 3-point analogy all the time. It opens stuff up because the safeties can't cheat. Even if that was the one thing, as much as everyone says how great Brady was always just good at just heaving it as far as he could just to keep those safeties honest.
On their toes at least a couple times a game. You have to do it. It's like the big man or a player in the NBA just shooting a couple threes a game. Even if you're not going to make a bunch of them, right? You got to just keep them on their toes, because if you don't even shoot them anymore, then they're going to start not even defending you that way.
Yep. And then flip side of that, we saw my boy Mingo go off. He has a good matchup here. Saints are 20th DVOA defending wide receiver 2s. I think he's going to have another good game. Plus, since 2005, these divisional trends, divisional road dogs, 650, 561, and 35. That's 54% against the number. The last 5 years, 57%. The last 5 years, NFC South divisional road dogs, 65% ATS. Another thing that really stood out to me when I was looking at everything, the Saints are one of the worst teams this year in the NFL in the red zone. So if they're driving down,
miserable,
getting threes.
This is what you
need. Sevens. You know what I mean? Like
this is the opposite of what you want with a team that you need to cover with margin. They're not efficient at all. They leave so many points on the table. Their offense has struggled overall. And when they move the ball, even when they're looking good offensively, they have a really hard time punching it in. These are the types of teams you want to play against when they're favored with margin.
Yeah.
Even though, like, on paper, the Saints look so much better than the Panthers in almost every unit, right? Almost every spot you can find. but they're still not this overwhelming team. And by a lot of metrics, I think they're just not a great football team this year.
Yeah, agree 100%. The one thing I'm looking at, though, Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston is quarterback, what we need, he targets Olave so much, it's absolutely insane. So what we want to do is we want to play Olave's normal prop. We want to play him to have over 100 yards. It'll probably be plus 200 or higher, maybe 180 or higher. And then some books offer him to have the most receiving yards for the week. His splits are just absolutely insane. So that'd be a player prop to kind of look at if it is Winston. And those most receiving yards for the week, those can be fun,
Oh, yeah, because they're huge prices.
Yeah, we got a good matchup here. We can throw 25, a quarter unit on. Should be like 20, 25 to 1 to it. So that'd be one prop to look at that could be kind of fun.
Something to mention as we continue going through all these games. If you're in the state of Iowa, we are looking at the DRF Sportsbook betting lines. You can actually sign up for a DRF Sportsbook and play legally in the state of Iowa right now. Our promo code is FAST300. They'll give you all the way up to a $300 deposit match bonus, and they'll be coming to more and more states very soon. If you're someone who played the races, you know about DRF, Daily Racing Form. This is the Sportsbook now as they are expanding onto the sports side. So, Erik, we go next to your Lions. You needed a bounce back win, and it's like one of those weird games. Like, you get up early and you play so well in the first few minutes. It's just hard to sustain that. We're human. Like, you take the foot off the gas a little bit. But I thought it was a fantastic start for a team who's not, the last few weeks have probably felt bad about the way their games have turned out. They're 9-3 now. It's their best start since 1962. They were the fastest team to 21 points in a game since 2010. The Raiders. No team has been up and scored 21 points faster in a game than the Lions just did since 2010. They're the first team since the 86 Vikings with 3 offensive touchdowns in the first 7 minutes of a game. Because normally what happens, one team will get a touchdown, then there'll be like a pick six or something, right? So you'll get like a defensive score or a turnover, but they had 3 straight offensive scores, which was just phenomenal. But after that, they go 3 and out 3 times in their next 5 possessions, and that let the Saints get back into the game. They also had a chance when they were in the red zone where they missed an opportunity there. They're still up 10 at half. Game gets a little closer. They're up 5 with 7 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the game. They go 3 and out. So the Saints get the ball and a chance to take the lead with 6 minutes to go. Saints turn it over on downs. Lions get the ball back. They don't let it go through their hands again. They're able to ice the game. They pick up a nice 39 yards on a really nice play by Goff. What I liked about that, Erik, is we have some of the same concerns about Goff right now than we may have a few years ago. Overall, he's better, and I think he has less weaknesses, but we still have some of the same concerns. I thought that was one of the best plays I can remember from Goff in a big moment where he went around the pressure, made a nice read, strong throw. It was just a big play for your Lions. And I think somebody had said, the Lions kind of feel like a team right now, like I think a college football team or like a college basketball team that knows they're like in the playoff or in the tournament, but now you just kind of want to get there. And then you sort of feel like when they get there, they'll be excited again. But right now they're just kind of like, oh crap, we got to 9-3. Let's just survive now along the way. The defense though, they're just struggling, right? Because and what some of the things that I really like, and I hope people that listen to this show week in, week out, you do a fantastic job of pointing out things that you see that maybe haven't even started happening yet. But you were just talking about this early in the year, yeah, Hutchinson's really good right now. They've been making some plays, but there's still not really anybody else on the other side. And what's happened now is, and it makes defenses, they just focus on Hutchinson. They put 2 or 3 guys on him, and they force somebody else to put pressure on the quarterback, and that's just not really happening.
No. It's just it's something that could have been this year. Obviously, your window to win in this league is very short. Just kind of looking at this game, Goff as a favorite outdoors on the road, 43.8% ATS. Since week 8, you mentioned the defense per EPA, they're the worst defense in the league. The Bears shredded this Lions defense, rushing for 183 yards, 4 yards per attempt, and kept the Lions on the field for 71 plays. Plus, we know the Lions like to run the ball. Believe it or not, the Bears allow the least rushing yards per game at 79 yards per game, and at home, they are only allowing 63.4 yards per game on the ground.
And it's not even fluky when you look at the other metrics on rushing EPA. They're third in the league defensively. In rushing success rate, they're second in the league. So they are very, very good at defending the run.
Oh, they're phenomenal against the run. And now you bring in Sweat, which is even a bigger deal. And the reason why I'm like mentioning these run games is that's going to be important. I live in the Chicagoland area. I was supposed to go to Michigan this weekend for my nephew's soccer game. We have this huge winter storm warning that's supposed to be rainy, 5 mile per hour winds, all this stuff going on. Now, that's going to favor the Bears because the Bears are going to lean on this run game. And if the Lions can't run the ball, you're going to be forcing Goff to make plays in bad weather. And for those who don't know where Soldier Field is, literally it's right on Lake Michigan. So you get all the lake effect stuff. I think this is just going to be a bad matchup for the Lions. I'm not saying they're going to lose the game, but anything over
at the half. Yeah. As soon as this jumped up to 3.5, I'm on the Bears side who, they've been playing pretty well. They had 16 total pressures in their last game, a 44% pressure rate. Fields was also in a lot of pressure in that game, but he performed pretty well. He graded quarterback 14 on the week, fumbled twice while running the ball. DJ Moore had a big game. They dominated the time of possession by only 11 minutes, but they only had 9 points until the final 10 seconds of the game. It was actually the first win by any team this year with 0 touchdowns scored. It was the first win for the Bears without a touchdown scored since week 5 of 1993, the last time we saw them. And we're on the Bears side here at plus the 3.5. Let's move to the Texans and the Jets. Texans are a 4-point favorite on the road here. This would be the first rookie head coach and rookie quarterback to make the playoffs since, Erik, which was the last combination, first-year head coach, first-year quarterback to make the playoffs?
Jesus. Harbaugh, Kaepernick?
It's a great guess. We had Andrew Luck and Chuck Pagano. So,
okay.
Not long ago, and Andrew Luck, I think people forget, he had that great stretch, man. Andrew Luck was very, very good. Texans were up 13 in that game early. The defense played really well last we saw them. They only allowed 282 total yards to the Broncos, just 4.8 yards per play, only 16 first downs for Denver on 13 total drives. This is the kind of thing that I'm sure, as a fan of Detroit, exactly what you were talking about, right? The rookie Anderson, 2 sacks, 4 hits, 8 pressures. He tips a pass that leads to an interception. You've got a good game from Stingley Jr., 2 interceptions. Now you see these young pieces on their defense that they invested heavily in, really helping them contribute on top of the great weeks that they have from Stroud. Because Stroud's not going to be great every single week. And this week he was solid, but the offense only gained 14 first downs. They took advantage of 3 Broncos turnovers. What concerns me about this spot, though, Erik, why I like the Jets in this spot, when you look at the Texans' offense, they are an offense this year that's been very successful. Like, they're more of a successful on EPA, expected points added, because they're more of a big play offense. Like, they're 10th in EPA per play, but when you look at success rate, they're 22nd, right? So they're not great down to down, but Stroud and their receivers, they'll hit these big, big plays. What concerns me is that now Tank Dell's gone for the year. He's out. So you take him out, and all of a sudden, instead of Tank Dell, you're going to be getting like more Robert Woods involved. Someone who's not nearly got the upside as a Tank Dell. And then you look at the Jets. they are fantastic at limiting big plays defensively. That's one of their strengths. You don't get the big plays against the Jets. So now this Texans team is going to have to go play a Jets team that's defensively very good, limits big plays, and they're going to be without one of their key weapons. They leaned on Collins a lot in that game. He had 191 yards. Can we get back to it with Wilson, though? Zach Wilson starting again, man. We going back to Wilson?
All right, so I got this line at 6. So first of all, I went on this big rant on Tuesday night. Jets are a complete shit show.
They ruined this kid. They ruined this kid over the last couple of years with what they did.
Front office, and if you're not even counting him, let's just kind of take a step back. Going into this year, you had Breece Hall and Michael Carter. You had a phenomenal lead back and a phenomenal third, like a Tony Pollard Jr. You had a great 1-2 combo. You're worried Carter could leave. That's fine. So you draft the kid from Pitt who was explosive. I liked him in college. I can't even pronounce his name. I liked him a lot. Then you bring in Dalvin Cook. Because why? He's friends with Aaron Rodgers. So now the kid from Pittsburgh doesn't even get on the field. Michael Carter leaves to go to Arizona, and when he did get on the field for the Cardinals, he looked explosive against the Steelers. You bring in Nathaniel Hackett only because he's friends with Aaron Rodgers, who's doing nothing.
And Boyle and Cook. Rodgers wanted Cook. He wanted Lazard, and he wanted Randall Cobb, and all of those guys.
Well, just look at this.
Building.
Let's just look at this for a second, okay? We got the Browns, who go out there with PJ Walker, who they just signed off the Chicago Bulls practice squad and beat the San Francisco 49ers. They bring Jersey Joe Flacco off the streets and played a competitive game with your Rams. Scores kind of deceiving, fell off toward the end. You look at what the Colts are doing with Gardner Minshew. Any competent coaching is going to work there because of the defense. You're playing a Falcons team which struggles against the run. You have Breece Hall run the ball 13 times, and you have Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle combined for 38. I know Wilson is starting and everything, and when they originally asked him, he said no. I don't blame him at all. He got thrown to the wolves this year, and he kind of just said, F it. I kind of had a little respect for him, just saying, you know what? I'm getting no coaching here. I'm being set up to fail. I'm being scapegoated. They're in the situation because of Aaron Rodgers trying to please him. In terms of this game, this is going to be the best defense Stroud has played against.
Yep.
And now you take away a weapon in Tank Dell that's going to allow Gardner to shadow Nico Collins. Noah Brown hasn't been the same since the injury. I think that's really going to affect everything. Also, we need to remember, like last year, what was the big thing with the Texans? They couldn't stop the run. This year, they're pretty good against the run. You can throw on them. When we look at the last 5 games that Garrett Wilson played with Zach Wilson, 12 targets a game, 7 receptions, 74 yards. I think this is going to be a big Garrett Wilson game. I think they're going to lean on him. I think he's going to have a good game. Stroud 1-4 is a favorite, plus 28 mile-per-hour winds and rainy. Indoor team traveling to the Northeast, bad weather. You got to take the Jets here. I got it at 6. I like it anything over 3.
We go next to what was a matchup. I also locked this thing in, and I'm fine over 3.5. I'm fine too. The Jets have only scored. They have 10 offensive touchdowns this year. 10. And that's the lowest number by any.
Why does Nate Hackett still have a job?
I don't understand.
Robert Saleh, or however you pronounce his name, is this mecca of a coach. I think he's awful. I think he's the most overrated coach in the league. And you have Sean Payton. Sean Payton, who doesn't say a bad word about anybody, was bad-mouthing this team. I think the rest of the team, in all honesty, the rest of the league, looks at the Jets as a complete and utter laughingstock.
They probably do. I will say, and this is something we see again with a lot of coaches. Robert Saleh's defense has been very good. He's probably a very good defensive coordinator and not someone who's a head coach who can manage all of the other things like the offense and some of the personalities and like all the things that go with being a head coach. It's not just about having a good defense. That's what happens when you're a defensive coordinator. Now you got to worry about offense, defense, special teams. You got to worry about the egos of your quarterbacks, of your high draft picks, of kids you draft, right? If you know, honestly, just like you said, there's no way if you're building this team this year and you think, okay, Aaron Rodgers is going to be our quarterback, you have to just cut Zach Wilson after what happened last year. You cannot come back this year with him as your backup, knowing that Aaron Rodgers could get hurt. He's an older quarterback and you need to lean on this guy. You should have had another veteran there that could come in, just like you said, like a veteran quarterback that was a backup, like a career backup that could come in the game, be competent, and like lead you if Rodgers was going to miss a game or two. You put this kid back in, and he wasn't ready to go back in this situation in New York where you already gave up on him, and everybody was expecting Aaron Rodgers to come in, so this guy was a huge downgrade. You screwed with his head. You have not given him any sort of like fundamentals or any sort of a base to work with. Like, this reminds me of what happened with Sam Darnold, too, when he was seeing ghosts. And we saw it with, I'm not saying that Josh Rosen or the guys like that were ever going to be good, but you can tell right away some guys never have a shot. Just never have a chance.
I'll be honest, if I'm Zach Wilson, I'm gone, and I am heading down to Miami, or I am heading to Denver, or I'll head to Los Angeles, or I'll head to the Rams. I'll head to one of those three places. And I'm like,
you can
hey,
go
you know what?
And start over and be a backup and work your way in.
I'll learn, and maybe I can be something in this league. If not, I'll be in a good position. I'll get some coaching, because as much as everyone wants to badmouth this kid and everything, he does have arm talent.
And he's mobile.
And his coaching, he's kind of just shitty coaching. We just don't know what this kid is.
None. And you don't know mentally where his head is. You pointed out McVay, and just remember what, like, you even said that Baker said McVay did for him in just a short period of time, right? Getting his confidence back. And we saw Baker look like one of the better versions of Baker through a lot of this year. And now he's a little bit banged up, but that's what you're hoping for from a guy like Zach Wilson. As we continue along. Oh, how about this, Eric? We have a rematch of 2018 number 16 Washington versus number 8 Washington State. Jake Browning versus Gardner Minshew. These were two top 20 teams in 2018 Pac-12 quarterbacks, and both of these teams have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs now. If Browning can give them anything close to replacement level, right? Like, let's just start with last week. This dude was incredible. Like, and I like doing this. I like doing this too, Eric, because I like giving the guys credit for being awesome, because in football, it's such a small sample size. Like, 1 week, having a great week, man, you get credit for having a great game. He was great. Now, moving forward, there's tape on him. There's film on him. Will he look as good? He was 32 of 37, 354 yards and a touchdown. Didn't throw a ton of risky passes. He had 8 different receivers. It was his first win since he was a starter at Washington. He completed every one of his 7 pass attempts over 10 air yards, and he was only the 10th player to have 350 plus yards and completion percentage over 85% in a regular season game. He was graded quarterback number 3 on the week. So I want to give Coach Taylor credit, right? He got this guy set up, put him in a spot to where he got him comfortable early in the game. And then as he got comfortable, he asked him to do more and more. And it was like a guy that was heating up an NBA jam. You start your range, you start backing up a little bit more and backing up, and then you can ask him to do more. They laned on the run a little bit. And man, it's cool to see someone step in and have a good game like that. Now, next week, can you do it again? So the Colts are like a legitimate playoff team right now with what they've been doing recently. And again, we have to give massive credit to their head coach. Last year, they ranked 30th in points per game. This year, they rank 8th with no Richardson, and with Taylor missing a lot of their year. That's coaching, Erik.
And I mean, I also kind of think like, I kind of mentioned like the issue, like these teams and having like questions at quarterbacks. Let's kind of look at them. You look at what the Colts have. Colts have Pittman, who's phenomenal. They have Josh Downs, who looks good. The Bengals have Chase and T. Higgins. The Browns have Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper. So it's just one of those things where you need to start having wide receivers in order to be there to
compare that to like the Panthers. They're in better shape, right, than Young. Like Young doesn't have quite those weapons. I'm not making excuses for him, but just these guys at least have some big playmakers they can lean on. Probably going to be the case with Minnesota, right? Moving forward now too with Jefferson back, that team may look a little bit different. It may be easier for whoever's playing quarterback than it had been for Dobbs the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, like in terms of this game, I look at it like this. Colts really do struggle stopping the run. Mixon, it's going to be the heavy workload. The Colts give up the 7th most rushing yards per game. I'll definitely be looking at some Mixon props. Are the Bengals, are they going to have the ability to cover Pittman and Downs? I really don't know. You mentioned Browning. My thing is, was that him or was that him taking advantage of the pass funnel defense that the Jaguars run that just allow these quarterbacks to get into rhythm? I don't know. I need to see it one more game from Browning just because I'm not as high as the Jags as the rest of the people are. I would look at Mixon props in this game, probably some Pittman props in this game, but in terms of side, I'll just completely pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay away. Shout out to Minshew though, man. He makes, he's a little up and down, but he makes plays. And the thing about him, he does not get rattled, right? Like that dude has got a different sort of mindset and mentality when you've read about him and like the way that he is. It doesn't seem like it bothers him. And that's kind of what you need as a quarterback sometimes. Like you need guys whose mental space is sometimes even more important than their physical, right? Because like we're seeing with a guy like Brock Purdy, and we're going to get to him in a little bit, but like there's so many intangibles as a quarterback that are really hard to quantify, Erik. And like the processing is the one that I'm realizing the most, that moving from college to NFL, you don't really know until you throw someone there under the fire and see how are they going to be able to process the speed of this game. You can have all the tools, you can look good in practice, but when things are different, are you going to be able to move at that type of speed? And for 1 week, Browning did. Let's see if he can do it again. Minshew's been doing a really good job throughout a lot of the year playing this backup role for them and just not making a whole ton of mistakes. But, for the Colts last week, and we'll talk about the Titans in a second, the Colts blocked 2 punts on back-to-back possessions, which is so insane and unlikely. And on those 2 blocked punts, they got a touchdown and a field goal. So they got 10 points on 2 blocked punts. And then later in the game, all the Titans had to do was kick an extra point to win the game. They scored a touchdown to tie it. The Titans just needed to go and kick the extra point. And because in one of those blocked punts, the Titans punter got hurt, who is also their holder, when they had Tannehill come out to hold, they ended up missing the extra point. So the odds of the Colts having won that game they just won against the Titans were so fluky. They needed like 5 things to all go their way that are absurd, that rarely happen in order for them to win, to get to overtime and then win. Derrick Henry got hurt. Simmons got hurt for the Titans. They had another 2 key injuries. So there were a lot of things bouncing the way for the Colts. And you know what? Power to them for taking advantage of it. I'm not going to play them this week. I'm not going to play one way or the other. I'm like you. We're staying away from this one.
That was one of the weirdest
games I've ever seen.
A block punt for a touchdown. Minshew throws the ball.
The 2-point. I forgot about that. An interception that was run all the way back for a 2-point conversion for the Titans.
And then the next play, the Titans punter gets hurt, comes down to freaking I mean, that was just I had the Titans plus the 2.
Me too. I had the Titans money line. Yeah.
that was just brutal for me to lose on that, on a kick like that. But it's just part of the game. You know, what can you do?
You get some that bounce your way, you get some that bounce against you. That was one that was like, you have to laugh at a little bit when those types of things happen that much, to where it's like, yeah, you know, there were 5 things we just were not supposed to win that game on that side. Let's move to our next one. We go the Jags at the Browns. So as of now, does it look like this is a not Lawrence number though, right? This is a CJ Bettors number.
Yeah, this was 3, with the Browns getting 3, and it's moved to them laying 3. And the thing is, this is like, look, with this game, we have no idea who's playing quarterback in either
for either team. And Bettors is even banged up for the Jags.
They have Nate Rourke, and this guy was the CFL MVP. This kid can throw the ball. This kid can extend plays. Are they going to go with him? And this isn't me copping out. I really can't cap any games if I don't know who the QB is.
100%. So hopefully
we don't know who the QB is on either team right now.
And so we don't know, Eric, what your schedule is going to be like this weekend. We may.
Oh no, I'm here, dude. I'm not going.
Oh, so now because with the weather. Okay, yeah, so Sunday now.
I'm here.
So we'll know more on Sunday about this game, who's going to be playing, and we'll be able to give you a better analysis of it then. Right now, I would say just don't touch it early unless you know something we don't know. But I'm a complete agreement with you. It's not even they're both missing one quarterback. Like, they both could be down. Second, are we DTR Flacco? Like you said, Bettors was even hurt when he came out there. He was like, his wrist was all bad. Just, I'm staying away from this one. The Ravens host the Rams, and the Rams are now in playoff contention. This game is a 7-point spread right now, with Baltimore coming off of a bye. I thought McVay did a really nice job in the game against the Browns, making adjustments throughout that game. What he did was, the Browns defense is strong, but they have some spots, some holes, and he took advantage of those holes by using Stafford's arm strength, because Stafford has a strong arm, and he can make throws that a lot of the other quarterbacks can't make. So that's the areas that he was like attacking against the Browns, and you could see the adjustments made, because the first 7 carries that Kyron Williams had, they were all into a loaded box. They just had nowhere to run. So you know what? Let's make an adjustment. Let's start attacking in different places. It was still just a 1-point game with 6 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. Bad interception from Flacco, who actually played really well for like a lot of the game, though. He just threw that one bad interception, and it really did flip the game, because it led to a touchdown. And instead of being up just 1, now the Rams are up 8. And so the Browns have to go for it on their next possession. They get stopped. Rams score a touchdown. Rams scored 16 points in the final 6 minutes of the game, and they've now won 3 in a row. Shout out to Puka Nacua. He went over 1,000 yards receiving. He's one of just 10, or he's just 10 yards shy. He's going to break the record if he doesn't get hurt. The most receiving yards by a rookie selected outside the top 100. Only 6 players since 1970 have hit 1,000 yards receiving in their first 12 games.
I mean, he's having a great season. For me, look, this opened up at 7.5, and I had to take this number at 7.5. Harbaugh, home favorite, 47% against the number. Home favorite, 3.5 or more, 46. 6.5, 6 or more, 43. Lamar, 41 as ATS is a favorite. 3.5 or more, 37. What has been the one thing consistent about the Ravens this year? Getting up double digits and blowing these big leads.
Yep.
You want to talk about a team that takes the foot off the pedal? That's what they do. Also, flip side of that, getting the 7. I got the 7.5, even the 7. It's open for a back door. We've seen this before when the Rams played the 49ers. Shout out Sean McVay kicking that field goal.
Thank you, Sean.
Ravens offensive line, are they going to be able to stop Aaron Donald? Flip side, I think even though the Ravens have the most sacks in the NFL, their offensive line played better against the Browns. I think they're going to be able to protect Stafford. Ravens, I think they're going to struggle defending Puka. I think they're going to roll their coverage to Cooper Kupp. I think they're going to struggle. I think this is going to be a big Puka game. And the Ravens, I know they want their passing game just isn't there without Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely, as much as I like him, isn't Mark Andrews, and Lamar doesn't have that same flair with him. They had a little fluky cover. They only scored 13 points against the Chargers. And then there was that fluky Zay Jones run where he should have went down, so they got to the 20. I don't know. I like the Rams here. Even if that's 7, I'd still play it. I got the 7.5.
Yeah, me too. The Ravens have some big games on deck. This is the type of game where you feel like, just like you're saying, they maybe take their foot off the gas a little bit. And now the Rams have something to play for here too. And they're sort of getting an identity with Stafford out there and with a couple of the playmakers they have. I think they do have the opportunity to be a team that you like playing in this situation as a dog getting a touchdown. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to lay this number with the Rams in any situation. I don't think they're like some juggernaut, but in this spot as a touchdown dog and above, I think they're super playable. And yeah, I'm on the Rams side here also. Let's move to the Bucks and the Falcons. Erik, man, shout out to you. You were all over Mike Evans hitting 1,000 yards this year. He did it, and we're only in week 14 right now. He had 162 out of the 200 yards passing that Baker Mayfield had. That is 10 straight years of 1,000 yards for Evans, the first player ever to do it in their first 10 seasons, each one of them.
I mean, he's just
monster. And good job by Baker noticing, and just realizing in some games, in some situations, you have to just lean on your best players. Immediately after the Panthers took the lead, Evans scored on a 75-yard touchdown reception. Baker struggled. It was kind of a rainy day. Nobody
Baker
other than
he looks hurt.
He does. I think he is hurt, right? You can see it, and he's trying because that's what he wants to do. He wants to tough it out. Nobody had more than 3 catches or 20 yards. Godwin had 0 catches, but he had 1 big rush for a touchdown. What they've done, actually, they've run the ball better the last few weeks a little bit. They had 28 carries as a team, 128 yards, 4.6 yards per carry. White had 84. They're just really injured right now. They had a lot of pieces on the defensive side that were really banged up, and now they'll come into this big game with Atlanta with a lot of key injuries as well. Atlanta leaned on their defense, which forced 3 turnovers in a game that was quarterbacked by Bull and Simeon. They only allowed 14 first downs. Jets were 2 of 15 on third down. And this Atlanta Falcons defense has now gone 24 straight possessions without allowing a touchdown. That is the longest active streak in the NFL. Last time they allowed a touchdown, week 10 at Arizona. It was a rainy game. Their offense couldn't do much. They only had 194 total yards. Ritter completed 12 of 27 passes. They were only 4 of 14 on third downs. They only had 3 yards per play and 15 total first downs on 14 drives. The Jets' D is good. They couldn't run the ball at all. They only had 2.6 yards per carry as a team, 90 yards on 34 carries. Bijan got locked down in that game, and they really just had to lean on the defense there. Atlanta, it's basically a pick 'em here. Atlanta at home against Tampa.
Yeah, 2.5 earlier.
Right? And this thing flipped real quickly. So, at like a pick 'em, I would be on the Atlanta side here.
I really want nothing to do. I'm invested in some Atlanta futures. I'm just going to kind of sit on those, kind of see what happens. I can't do anything here. I really can't. It's just one of those things where I don't feel confident playing the Bucks here.
Me neither.
And the fact that there's been such a move kind of tells me there's some big boy money.
Or something about to happen, right, that we may not even know quite yet. So, yeah, this is a huge game for the division because the Atlanta Falcons, the way it sits right now, it doesn't even look like there's going to be a possibility for it to be anything other than whoever wins this division is going to be hosting a playoff game against either Philly or Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what's going to happen. I don't think it could be anything other than that based on the way the records are. Because whoever loses the NFC East is going to be the number 5 seed, and they're going to go on the road and play whoever wins the NFC South, which will be probably Atlanta. So Atlanta right now, or like if it's Atlanta, Tampa, whoever, they are going to be hosting either Dallas or Philly. And that's going to be one of those situations where the road team is going to be a massive favorite in round one of the playoffs. Can Atlanta get a big win here and really stamp themselves as the team to beat in the division? Let's keep rolling, Eric. Where do we head next? We go to the Vikings at the Raiders. So do we know right now who the Vikings are starting at quarterback as of this Wednesday night?
Josh Dobbs.
Okay. The question I have about the Vikings, last we saw them, we haven't seen them for a while. They had a bye. They're up in the game against the Bears, right? And it's back and forth.
No, they were never up against the Bears.
Or no, they got up late in the game. They took the lead late, and they had an up, and then
the Bears were always ahead, I thought, if I remember correctly.
And I think they scored like right at the end to go up, or is it to go up or to tie it? And then the Bears get the ball with the chance to win the game late.
Yeah, they tied it, and the Bears
That's what it was.
Kicked the field goal.
So after like looking anemic throughout the entire game, they moved the ball a little bit late. Vikings tie the game. Bears come back. What surprised me is like they weren't putting any pressure on the quarterback late, which is exactly what the Vikings and Flores do over and over. And Dobbs was really bad against the pressure. You were pointing out this is why I liked giving him credit. One thing we have to do as analysts is be an analyst and a gambler, because as an analyst, man, shout out to Josh Dobbs. It had to be great for a guy like that who's had such a crazy couple years just to go in and be able to lead a team to win a game or two. And for a week or two, everybody gets to talk about Josh Dobbs. Like, that has to be cool for him, awesome for him, like deserving for all these guys that work so hard to make it there. But then what you have to do is you have to understand that when that happens, perception starts to grow and everybody gets a little bit overvalued. And then, there's film out there. There comes that regression back to the mean. Josh Dobbs was not like a starting quarterback in this league. Maybe he can be better than what we saw in the early starts in his career, but not probably quite as good and successful as he looked in a few of the games for Minnesota. Now we're sort of back to where we were with Josh Dobbs, to where we don't know what we're going to get out of him. That's why I just have a hard time with this Vikings team laying a field goal on the road here, playing another team that's coming off a bye that could be improved now, coming off the bye with a young quarterback and a new coach who's had a little bit of time to work with this team and maybe implement a few things they want to put in here. The Vikings have lost back-to-back one-possession games that they could have won, and now they really have hurt their playoff chances quite a bit. For the Raiders, they got up big against the Chiefs, and, they blew that game, but they missed a 30-yard field goal. Their defense started to struggle late. I just like the way they're playing for this coach. They're playing so much harder. They seem like they care again. And now at 3 or above, I'm on the Raiders side, Eric, because I'm stealing your quote. Who is Josh Dobbs to be laying 3 points on the road?
Yeah, I mean, this move kind of
recently too
shocked me a little bit. This opened up at 2.5. I thought the Raiders were actually going to take the money.
Me too.
And I actually locked this in at 2.5. Josh Dobbs is 2-11. 2-11
as a starter. So this is a 3-point spread. We're not talking about Josh Dobbs being favored by 10 to where, or we're not talking about Josh Dobbs being a dog, right? To where all he has to do is cover the spread. He's a 10-point underdog. As long as they keep it within 7, he's good here. He has to win this game.
Yeah, and I just don't trust them to do it. I know they're getting Justin Jefferson back, but we really don't know if Justin Jefferson, what connection him and I are going to have with Dobbs. I had this kid Reed on my stream last night. Reed used to play college football, and he was like, look, dude, I've been in this situation before. When I was a freshman, I took over for the starter. We had our star wide receiver came back. I had no relationship for him, and I threw the ball to him 2 times my first game back just because I had no relationship with him. And he played the slot, read it out, and always throwing it to the outside. And I just kind of think it's kind of the same thing here. We don't know what they're going to have. Literally zero connection. I'm just going to take the Raiders here because I think Crosby's going to be able to hit the Dobbs and make them uncomfortable. I think that the run game, Jacobs is going to be able to get some run. That's going to open stuff up for O'Connell, and I don't trust the DBs to stop Adams.
Where do we head next, Eric? Seattle at the 49ers. And this is just another one for me. This is like a total principle play because so last week, 49ers look incredible. And I think we were talking exactly about it, right? The spot was fantastic for them. Right now, they're like the healthiest team in the league. Like of all the good teams. And in the first quarter, the 49ers go 3 and out on their first 2 drives. They have -6 total yards. They're getting absolutely destroyed. They didn't look good in any way, shape, or form. The Eagles go 12 plays on both of their first 2 drives and can only get 6 points. If you were someone, I didn't bet the game, and I was at the Rams game watching on my phone, and my buddy's an Eagles fan, and I looked right to him. They flashed the graphic at the end of the first quarter. The Eagles had 120 total yards, and the 49ers had -6, and it was 6-0. I said, you're in trouble right now. You needed to be up by 10 or double digits at that point because you played really well, and they did not. What happened immediately following that? 6 straight touchdowns from the 49ers. Were the Eagles ever going to win that game? Probably not. It wouldn't matter. Probably wouldn't have mattered what happened in the first quarter, even if they were up by 14. But this was a defense that was on the field for 92 plays the week before in overtime, the Eagles. So everything about that game looked fantastic for the 49ers. They had the chip on their shoulder because they lost last year, and it was a revenge game. They were talking trash to them all week. Deebo Samuel was incredible. It was as fantastic of a game of everything going well as possible. But now, immediately following that, every single person everywhere has said 49ers are the best team in the league. 49ers are number 1 in the power rankings. 49ers can't be beat. You can't beat them when they're healthy. I keep hearing that. They're unbeatable. And it just, the gambler in me always has to play against a team that scores touchdowns on 6 consecutive possessions. Like, you're just not going to be that efficient each and every week. And this is almost it for Seattle now. Like, this is a kitchen sink game for you. You're going to throw every single thing you have at your division rival. You've got a couple extra days off now after 49ers got up for their big game. Seattle played Thursday against Dallas last week. I actually felt bad for Seattle watching that game. They played so well on offense for most of that game. They really deserved to win. They were up by 8 in the fourth quarter. The Cowboys kick a field goal, so they're up 5. Following that, they get stopped 3 straight times on 4th down on consecutive possessions. The 46-yard line, the 49-yard line, and the 50-yard line. So they would move the ball and then get stopped on 4th and short again. Dallas went from down 8 to up 6 in those 3 possessions. But they had 406 total yards and 6.3 yards per play against a good defense. Geno Smith looked much better. Metcalf was good. It was only the 5th game in history that there were no punts. At over double digits, I was in. And I locked this game in at 11 immediately because it was in like the 11-ish range right away. Because when I watch games on Sunday, and I know you do the same thing, like I'm watching games already thinking about the next week. And when I see teams that play so well, and I hear everybody start talking about like, how you play against the 49ers? I'm laying the 10.5. I'm laying 20 with the 49ers. That's when I know I have to play against them. Buy low, sell high, Eric.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the Seahawks here too. Maybe this can get up a little bit to, I think that maybe this will move up. This is 13.5.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more money coming on the 49ers. You know, divisional dog on the road, just what you do. Carroll over 60% ATS as a favorite. I will say this though, Purdy, right now, he probably deserves the MVP, but he's not going to win it, unfortunately.
Because the problem, like, he has been excellent. And by like almost every metric you're looking at, he's been very, very good. He's obviously better than replacement level, right? But for me, I'm not like, I have a hard time in situations like this where he's a top 10 quarterback, I'll say, especially the way he's playing this year. He may not even, there might be 6 or 7 players on his team that are better at their position than he is at his, right? Like, that's where I have a hard time. Like, Kittle is probably your second or third best tight end. Debo is like a top 5 wide receiver. Trent Williams is one of the best offensive linemen in the league. On defense, they might have 3 different guys that are like top 3 or 5 at their position. And Purdy is playing offense for this team about as well as you can. But I just still have a problem with him he's not even the most valuable player on his team. He's like a very valuable player. And I don't even know when you flip him with others, like a lot of other good quarterbacks could be in this spot and not even be doing as well as he is. I wish he could get offensive player of the year. And I hope, but like with Hill and the records he's breaking, because there should be something you can give to Purdy that's not MVP, because that just feels weird to me. But damn, Erik, like, that guy's been amazing so far. He's been incredible.
He's
it's
playing
the processing,
great.
right?
He's playing great.
I didn't think he could make the decisions like he does.
Yeah, he's playing great. I haven't pulled the trigger on this. I mean, when you just kind of look at these numbers, what the 49ers have done the last 2 years as 7-point favorites or more, they're 71% against the number.
They just crush. Yeah, I mean, in this situation,
absolutely insane how the Niners are just covering these numbers. I mean, principle says you kind of have to play the Seahawks here. Yeah. I mean, I want to see if I can get a better number, but
double digits would be, if it for some reason trickled under, I wouldn't want to go less than double digits, but yeah, I'd be okay at 10.5 and above. We keep rolling along. A massive game right next door, Erik. The Bills at the Chiefs. Bills come off their bye. The Chiefs are a 1.5-point favorite in this game. Man, the Packers, they did a great job when they played the Chiefs, because the Chiefs only got 2 first-half possessions in that game. They only had 8. And the Packers go 13 plays, 75 yards, 7 minutes and 40 seconds, score a touchdown. Then they go 8 plays, 75 yards, 4 minutes, score a touchdown. And the Chiefs go long drive, field goal, long drive, field goal. And they're down 14-6 because the Packers scored 2 touchdowns and they kicked 2 field goals. They're averaging their lowest points per game average since 2011. Yeah, they were stalled by a couple sacks. They don't give up a lot of sacks. Like, Mahomes doesn't get sacked very much. And their defense struggled in that game. But we're seeing that Jordan Love is throwing the ball really well, because this has been a pretty good defense for a lot of the year. They allowed a season low 47.6 defensive success rate, and they allowed 6.1 yards per play, which was their second most in a game. I mean, now you got the Bills here, who we last saw them losing in that overtime game to the Eagles. It feels like that was forever ago. They played really well. They had positive turnover margin. They had 500 yards, 10 third down conversions, positive turnover margin. They're the first team out of 40 teams ever to lose a game when they had positive turnover margin, 500 yards, and 10 third down conversions. Allen was really good, but he's now 0-6 in overtime games, and their field goal kicker has been missing extra points recently. That hurt. Yeah, I mean, this is another situation where it feels like the game we were talking about where like Seattle and Buffalo, they don't have many opportunities to lose more games. Like, if they want to make the playoffs.
Basically a must win. I know a lot of people are talking about the Chiefs offense. I think another thing is, and this is kind of like crazy, I have to give my boy Reed credit. They're missing, as crazy as it sounds, they're missing Juju Smith-Schuster.
100%. Everybody's out of role there. All they need is like that one other guy, because now, like, it's a domino effect on Kelsey. And for whatever reason, like, I think we can look at Kelsey and say He's getting older. He was hurt to start the year. He does have all the stuff going on with Taylor Swift. Maybe he's a little tired and run down. All of those things, very logical. But on top of it, personnel-wise, like if you're defending the Chiefs, who scares you of their weapons? Just Kelce. Like you go, you double Kelce, and then you force everybody else to beat you.
Yep, 100%. And in terms of the Bills, look, Allen 64% as a dog. I think the offense has looked better. Reed made another comment. He's like, this is still the Dorsey offense that we saw. We're going to see more of the Brady offense this week in terms of play design. The play calling, the pace of the plays has been different, but we really just haven't seen the Brady offense just because he hasn't had time to install it. Maybe the Bills here first half because the Chiefs won't have time to adjust and won't know what's coming. But I haven't done anything here. This was 3 after the loss. It dipped down a little bit. It looks like it's still dipping. Maybe I'll play the Bills first half, but right now I'm just kind of sitting out.
Yeah, I'm sitting this one out also. We go Broncos at the Chargers. Broncos lost a big game for their playoff hopes last week. Chargers get a win, a 6-0 win. They shut out the Patriots in a game impacted by weather. It was Staley's first shutout as a coach. It was actually the fewest points they've ever scored in a win in franchise history. They've only scored 36 points in their last 3 games combined, the Chargers. And they can't run the ball at all. And they've had 11 drops in the last 2 weeks. Give them a little bit of a leeway because it was wet last week, so you drop a few here and there in the wet weather. But they've had 11 now, and Keenan Allen's had some bad drops. Eckler is just done right now. Johnson had bad drops also the last couple weeks. And the Broncos side, Sutton, who's been really good, he actually had a really key bad drop in their game. After being down for like 13 a lot of the game, they cut it to 1 score. They had back-to-back drives where they had touchdowns on 2 out of 3 possessions, but they threw an interception on their final 2 drives when they were down by 5, and they had a chance to take the lead. Any play here, Broncos at the Chargers?
I got nothing here. I feel this is an elimination game. I'll lean to the first half under because of that. Maybe I'll look to some Javonte Williams props because the Chargers do bleed production to the running back. But in terms of side, nothing.
I completely agree with you. I'm staying away from this one as we move to a massive game this week. It is the Eagles at the Cowboys, and the Eagles now, after this stretch of really, really tough games, I actually locked this one in when it got up above 3.5 because I think this is going to be a tight game here. But then this Eagles team is beat up. I think because they got decimated so bad last week, they're going to want to bounce back here, and they are still battling for the number 1 seed. Like, it's not as if they can take their foot off the gas here. They lose this game, they could lose the division and the number 1 seed. They could drop from a team that could have a bye all the way down to having to go on the road for their first game in the playoffs. So I don't think they want to take their foot off here, Eric. And this is the type of situation with Dallas when everybody feels like Dallas has played well against bad teams, and then they get in a situation like this, and it's tight, and it's McCarthy, and you worry about him making decisions late in the game. At 3.5, I lock this in. I'd still be okay playing the Eagles at 3. I'd need the 3 or 3.5 here because, I mean, everything you read and you look at with the metrics with Dallas, they've been playing phenomenally, and Dak has been incredible, but they have to prove against one of these teams that they can beat them. They just haven't done it in the last few years in spots like this.
My thing also, I look at it like this. Number one, we don't know what is going on with Jalen Hurts. Hypothetically, let's say Hurts doesn't play. This number is going to completely balloon, and it's going to completely get higher.
Over 7, I bet. This thing is going to go up to 7.
Flip side, McCarthy had appendicitis today. He had surgery. Is he even going to be on the sidelines? What is that going to look like? Because right now the assistants are running it. A lot of questions here. Eagles secondary is very poor. They bleed production.
They added Shaq Leonard, which in the middle, and I'll say this. His name, the name a lot of people do. He's not that good. He's one of those hard-hitting kind of impactful players. Like when he has a big play, it sort of stands out. He's not an all-world linebacker, but he's better than what they were throwing out there last week. Like he will give them a little bit more upside than what they had last week. So don't expect him to be like a savior, but it's still better than where they were, like what they were throwing out last week when they just didn't have very many options. Yeah, big game, important game. Can the Cowboys finally get one of these big wins that they need, Erik? The real buzzy team now in the league this week is the Packers, and I think very rightfully so. They've looked fantastic. Jordan Love, it was the third straight week where he went from being one of the least accurate quarterbacks in the league to like the most instantly in like just a 3-week sample size. Again, I'm not saying this is just who he's going to be, but it's been incredible to see and watch the film and see the placement, like the ball placement that he's had. He's had 3 touchdowns and no interceptions 4 times so far this year. It's only the 5th time someone's had that in 4 of their first 13 games. Brock Purdy actually did in this last year and a half or so. He started the game 10 of 11, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. They were just really, really good. Now, all this being said, they're the number 3 offensive DVOA the last 5 weeks. I think this is a spot where, are they ready to be favored by a touchdown on the road with this young team, right? And everything they've been hearing, and I'm sure they've been reading how damn good they've looked. Like, this was another one that right away when I saw how well they played last week, I was looking to attack whoever, they were playing against. And this is one that I locked in also, Erik.
Letdown spot for the Packers. Monday night home dog, 6.5 or more, 57% ATS. Packers can be run on. Are they going to be able to stop Barkley? Look, we don't know. Is it Taylor? Is it DeVito? We don't know exactly who the starter is going to be yet for the Giants. Is Love going to be able to handle this Martindale pressure? LaFleur, this is the thing that stood out to me. LaFleur is 8-2 ATS since 2001 in the month of December. But however,
he's never lost. I think he's 16-0 overall as a coach in December.
I just feel that this is just too much of a number.
This should be like 3.
Yeah, I'll take the Giants here to cover.
If this was 3.5, I'd still take it.
But I mean, this could easily. I wouldn't surprise me if this gets to 7 on some.
I completely agree with you. It could get even higher. Giants. We're both on the Giants side here. Final game of the week. 2 Monday Night Football games this week, which is bizarre, especially when they both. Me too. Especially when they both start at the same time. Like, if you're going to stagger them, at least that makes sense. But you put 2 games on at the same exact time on Monday.
I absolutely hate this.
Me too. It's awful. The Dolphins are a 13-point favorite in this game. For the Titans, they're really banged up. They come off that bizarre game, as I mentioned, that they should have won. They had 2 punts blocked, and they missed an extra point. But they have a punter that's hurt. Simmons is hurt. Henry is hurt. And the Dolphins beat up teams at home. I'm staying away from this game. Like, if it gets to over 14, I'm going to be on the Titans, but I'm staying away from right now.
Vrabel 56% as a dog, 59%. 5.5 or more. Vrabel's team. This is the worst season Vrabel has had as a dog. He's 4-6 this year. We don't know the health status of Jeffrey Simmons or Derrick Henry.
Well, and remember, 2 of the games that he had as a dog this year, remember week 1 against the Saints when Tannehill missed the wide open, and they had the wide open receiver down they could have easily won that game. And then last week as a dog again, they should have won, and all they needed to do was make an extra point.
It's just absolutely brutal this year with what they have. Finns have some O-line issues. But if no Simmons there, how is that going to look? Who do the Titans have to stop the Finn speed? Titans are 30th DVOA defending the pass. Who is going to stop Hill for them? One of the trends, teams that won by 30 points or more, 46% ATS when they're favorites, it's 45. Look, I'm going to hold out. I think that we can get a 14 here. If not, I think it's just going to be alternating in the 13 and a half range. So I'll just kind of lay low and wait.
Let's finish up, Eric. I know you've got another show to go hit up right now, and I appreciate you always giving us a few extra minutes here. We will make sure to be following you at ETOF21 on Twitter and at ETOF21 Sports all over the place. We will be checking out your podcast on Friday. You and I will be also on Sunday teaming up. We're still not sure. We'll figure it out maybe Friday. We're not sure since there's not a whole lot of college games this week. Maybe we'll just lean to Sunday and we can really dive into all the Sunday morning games there at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. But thanks so much, buddy. I know you got to run. Go enjoy the rest of your night and whatever work. I know you probably a billion other shows you're going to record right now. So good luck and have a great one, bud.
All right. I'll talk to you later, my friend.
Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. And we'll talk to you again next week, previewing all the games. But make sure to come hang out with us on Sunday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time for NFL Betting Blitz on social media, where you can follow me or